So the purpose of this video, if it is that you're a new CMS Hub user, these particular areas that I'm going to be showing you are extremely important when it is that you're setting up your system, you're setting up your HubSpot portal the right way to be able to now use your pages, use your email marketing, use your blogs and stuff in the best possible way. So when you get into your system for the first time, because you're going to be doing a lot of work in these areas where it says websites, blog and web pages, we're gonna look as to how we go to the back end to start setting certain things up so that we can use our portal in the best possible way. So the first thing that we need to do is go across to where it says settings, and on the left hand side we will see this full list of a menu. If you're not familiar with it and the first time you're seeing it, there's a full menu, and down to the bottom is where we'll see website. And these are the areas that we're going to be talking about, that I'm going to be introducing you to briefly, that you need to take some time and fill out. So the first one is actually going to be where it says domains. So of course, your web domains and your URLs, to be able to host your website within HubSpot, you must have purchased a web domain. So what you will need to do, similar to how I have my web domain connected here, where you see it's connected so you're connecting it for a number of reasons. One, you're connecting it directly to your website. Two, you're connecting it directly to your blog and landing pages, and the third one will be to be able to connect it for your email marketing campaigns. Right now, to be able to do that, the first thing that we need to do, where you see this nice little orange button here, you will click on Connect Domain, and you'll have the options. Some of you all may not have these two particular options. You may just normally have primary and email send. But these two are extremely important. So once you've done that, in the instance, let's say for instance it was primary, I already have primary connected. If I wanted to go across to where it says email send, I'm going to partially take you through this step because HubSpot will guide you through the entire thing. I'm just showing you as to where you can find it. What you'll be able to do is put in what that domain is, and then from there, when you click next, is going to work towards the second step, which is verifying your domain. Now, one of the main things within HubSpot is always a guide in terms of steps as to how to go about doing things. That's why the portal is so simple to use and it's so intuitive, right? Once you go through that process and you verify the URLs, now you will now be going across to the hosting setup. Keep in mind that with the hosting setup, if it is that you're using platforms like Wix or GoDaddy or wherever, if you had a website that was up and running from before, you may need to change your DNS settings. HubSpot will actually prompt you and give you a guide as to how to go about doing that. The other thing you'll have to pay attention to is things like URL redirects. URL redirects would simply mean that, let's say for instance you did have a particular web page that was out there from before, and you want to now redirect someone to this new page or this new site. You can just take the old version or the old URL, and you will be able to now go here, you will put the old URL in, and now you will then include what the new URL is, and you will of course add the URL redirect. So which means that anytime someone, this is an example here, anytime someone types in an old URL, they will be now redirected to a new one, which is on a new site. The other thing that you'll need to do, and again you can take your time and walk through these areas, of course choosing a language. So down to the bottom I am English, but you can, once you have that set up after you've connected your domain, you'll now be able to come in and you can choose that respective language for your site. You get the ability of having more than one language for your website, so I think you should take advantage of that as well. Your sitemap will be respective to what your domain is. All of your pages are now going to be connected and listed here. All right, so but I'll go into sitemap a little bit deeper as time goes on. But once you have your site built on the respective domain, that's why connecting your domain is important. You now have the ability of having all of your stuff showing up and listed within this particular space. And custom SSL from a security socket layer standpoint, to get more customization or more security, you'll have to maybe upgrade to, if you're not on Pro already, you'll have to upgrade to Pro, or you may have to go to Enterprise. So this is one as it relates to domains and URLs. The other one will really be along the lines of navigation. So with the navigation pane, you can actually create different menus. So as much as it says navigation, it's really like a menu. So for instance, for us, we have, based upon the theme, this is our menu to the side, right? So this is our menu that we have here, and you will notice that our menu, we have home, services, resources about us and legal, right? And for instance, our blog, it may be a little bit different. So we have home, services, resources, about and legal as well. So you can actually set up specific menus based upon the pages that you have. So your landing page menu could be different, your blog menu could be different, and your actual website menu could be different. So if I were to switch across to OPAAT-SWY, this is where I have a specific menu for OPAAT-SWY. So once someone is actually on the site, this is what they are going to be seeing. So this is how you can go about building that from there, and you can have menus in terms of style from the hamburger slide out, or from the drop down that's just to the top at the side there. So that's another thing to think about. This is actually going to come up when you start building your site. Themes. Well, in another video, you'll actually see how to go about accessing a theme and installing a theme into your HubSpot portal. But once you have installed a theme, one of the first things that is important for you to do with your theme is that you can actually go into your theme and start customizing your theme to now have that particular look and feel as it relates to what you want. So let's just say, for instance, I wanted to make certain adjustments as it relates to things like color. If I were to click on where it says color, I would now be able to change, let's say, for my global colors or my font colors, etc. Let's say I didn't want this button to be blue, to be red anymore. I can now I can change my brand color to make it blue. What you're going to see happen here is that the site is the theme is actually going to refresh. So I'm already making adjustments to what this is. So you can now say, okay, these are the basic things that I'm actually going to start adjusting. If I were to switch it back to red, you'll notice that the button is going to change, and of course the back to top menu arrow down here is going to change as well. So you can go through all of these respective menus and start making the adjustments, because of course you can look at your blog layout, you can look at your system pages, etc., etc., headers, etc. And these would look a little bit different based upon the theme, but it's almost a very standard approach within HubSpot, within the CMS platform. The other thing that you'll want to also pay attention to, apart from the theme, will be your blog, right? Of course, very important. So there's a menu and a guide that you'll need to pay attention to, and that will be, the first one will be, what is the name of your blog, and of course, like your blog header. And I'll give you an example as to what that is. So you will have seen, you're seeing here that my blog header is lead, apply, grow. And if I go across to my blog page, what do you see on the header? Learn, apply, grow. So from the back end of the platform, you have the ability of putting certain things together. So you get the ability to put in your meta description, you get the ability of putting in, so if you wanted to change what your blog slug is in terms of adjusting your URL, if you don't already have one, you can put that in here. And what is actually new, and it's in beta, is structured data, where HubSpot is going to kind of work on the back end to help structure some of that data. I think it goes along the lines of something called Scheme. I'm still familiarizing myself with it a little bit more, and so that it can now help you to be found better on Google or the respective search engines. If we're going, so let's go back up to the top menu. Within the top menu, we now have templates, right? So your blog template is more than likely going to come from your theme that you decide to download and use as your brand blog. So again, you have the ability of either selecting some options if you wanted to change the template, if you wanted to edit the template, if you wanted to preview the template, you can do that from here. Right, the same thing applies in this particular space. Preview, look at the details, or change the template altogether. How many blogs do you want showing up in your total? So for me, I have 10. So if I were to scroll down, I should see 10. And you could also adjust things like your layout, what's going to show up on your sidebar, and stuff like that, right? And of course, if it is you want to get a little bit deeper into like a little bit of your coding and your HTML stuff, if you have someone, if you are that proficient, or you have someone within your team, team, sorry, I don't have someone that's that proficient, and I am not as proficient, so I use the standard default information that's here. But this is where you can update your style sheets as well. Subscriptions. So this one I find is really interesting, because subscriptions allow you the ability to control how people receive information or how they would like to subscribe to your blog. One of the big benefits that I have received for me when it comes to my blog, doing it within HubSpot, is that people have gotten people now have the option as to how would they like to receive information about which blogs would have just been posted. So do they get an instant notification? Do they get daily notifications, weekly notifications, or monthly notifications? Regardless as to how often you put your blogs together, these two, what this does is HubSpot will now control and manage how the distribution of those things will go based upon the preferences of the person that subscribed to your blog. So that's pretty cool. And to set that up, you'll have to switch this on, and then you will be able to go into edit. I'll do this in another video and show you as to how to go about editing these things from here. Your RSS feeds, you can adjust in terms of how many feeds do you want in terms of number of blogs that you want to show up in your feed, but this is here as well for you to choose from. Date formats, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I don't have to go into too much from there. And also we have things like comments. Now, do you want people to leave comments on your blog? I will say yes. You can start building communities from there. And then from there, how do you want to manage or moderate your blogs and your responses? And who within your organization will now be seeing these things and managing these things? Also just as important. All right, and as we go across to a couple others here, there's social sharing. Which social platforms? Right now there are only 3 options. So at the end of your blog, what will happen is that you will have the ability to share to these 3 platforms. Outside of that, you'll have to kind of copy and paste the URL and put it where you need to put it. All right, and lastly, I think it's accelerated map pages or mobile pages. You will be able to set this up from here so that if someone does Google it and it comes up, it'll come up pretty quick. And then if they click that particular page, it wouldn't be a full blog page, but it'll be like a preview to your blog page. From here, then they'll be able to kind of go in. So this is how you kind of set up your accelerated pages. So that is this for the blog. And the last one is the most important one, which is pages. This is where now, because you're actually going to be building out your pages, take some time to really put the emphasis on making sure these things are set up. So again, if it is that you do want to customize certain things in terms of your style sheets and you know what you're doing, go ahead and you can adjust these things from there. If you don't know what you're doing, leave these things alone, right? Your jQuery, I would always say, look at the documentation that you receive after you've downloaded your theme, because your documentation will give you a guide as to how you want to go about adjusting this. All right, so this is extremely important. The other one is branding. This is going to just guide you as to installing or putting in your logos, and of course both for your standard logo, which will be a default logo for your web page, and your favicon, so when people do start, when people put in your stuff and it's going to your page, it starts showing up in a tab. Personalization, important. We'll touch on this later on. Personalization is extremely important, because if someone, especially if you're using things like smart rules or smart content, how would you want HubSpot to recognize this person? Either if they're coming from a company, so if they're using a company IP address, or if they're using a personal IP address and they've converted or left some sort of information, how does this show up from here? So again, something to think about, and you can actually go in and adjust what these things say, but again, we will touch on those things a little bit later on. It's not a mandatory thing to adjust now. Integrations, most importantly, all right, and pay attention to any yellow box or blue box that comes up on any part of anything that's related to HubSpot. Take some time to read it. Tracking integrations, so you have where you can put in your Google Analytics code, you all know where to get that, and of course integrate with Google Tag Manager, you all know where to get that as well. And just here, if it is that you do have some ad rules, if you know where to get your code, you will be able to put your code from in here and you save. So for most of us, if you're starting off, these will be blank. As soon as you put something in there, you will see the button down to the bottom to save. Make sure that you save before you move forward. We have SEO and crawlers. So these things are normally set by default. I have not personally touched on these too much, but it says add self-referencing canonical. I always say that kind of wrong, but it says recommended, so I just leave it as recommended. Again, if you know what you're doing, this is what you do. Other than that, if it is that you have an idea as to what you want to make certain adjustments for yourself, or you know why you would want to switch it, yeah, again, once your domain is connected, this is what you need to do. Have your domain connected. Make sure it's pulling from the right domain to get the kind of information that you're looking for. And most importantly, system pages. If something does go wrong, what is it that they will see? If it is that you have more than one theme or just one theme, HubSpot will give you a default But when you get in, you come here and you choose the system page that's respective to the theme. And these are things to pay attention to when you are choosing your theme. So again, when we do another video that looks at, you know, how to look at your web pages and see what's in your resources, or in your pages, in your theme, you will see where they have system pages. So in this instance, this is for the 404 error, so I can click here and I would look to see, okay, this is 404 for this particular theme, so I choose that. I have a couple other themes that's here, but I don't want this theme. I wouldn't choose the growth theme because it's a totally different look and feel that's not going to stay consistent to the website's brand and color and scheme and everything else. And the same thing goes for your 500 page. If you do have HubSpot Pro, sorry, CMS Pro, and you have access to manage and lock or password protect certain pages, then you'll be able to put in this particular password prompt. And of course, you have your search results. What does that look like, and everything else different as well. So that, in a nutshell, that would carry us down to the bottom, right? Anything else after that would now be onto payments. So that is how you go about setting up your website, going through the back end, taking the time to put things together so that when you start building a page, you don't have to worry about coming back to these things. So that should be one of your first or second or third step as it relates to starting to build your CMS portal out the right way. Hope that helped.